Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 43rd part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 232, Hidden Evils. Their loss at the Midoriya Foundation sent waves throughout the MLA. They'd lost not only thousands of their fellow members, but also their leader, and the descendant of Destro himself. Many were disheartened and left the organization altogether. But many more were motivated, determined not to let this stop their ambition. And so, with heavy hearts, they were forced to replace their leader with a new council of powerful members of the organizations. These 6 leaders were now in the main building in their city, sitting at a round table. Senhosha, a man who appeared to be a black skeleton, surrounded by a weird green casing. In actuality, that weird green stuff was his flesh, which was made see-through due to the radiation quirk he possessed. He wore a black business suit. Rayon Okori, a 10-foot-tall lion man, wearing red robes. He also had a bunch of women surrounding him, and one on his lap. Borozogupu, a man who wore a large wooden mask with 2 long upward-facing horns, and his blue eyes glowed from the eyeholes. He wore a long body covering white and brown, gold-trimmed cape, and only his gray-gloved hands could be seen peeking out of it. Masuta Yoso, the youngest out of everyone there, was a woman with black hair, tied into a bun, who wore red and black armor. Hibiju was a woman who had the upper half a beautiful human woman, and the bottom half of a snake, with pure white scales. She had pure white hair and donned a very old-fashioned white and red Miko-like garb. Lastly, there was a man with gray skin and white hair in a business suit. This was Nohi Shumu. Well then, I think it's time we properly started, Masuda said. First off, Midoriya. I say we abandon the idea of attacking him directly from now on. It's simply not worth it. Agreed. Sedson, Borozu, Hibi, and Nohi. Oh? We're just going to let him get away with making a mockery out of us? Rayon lightly objected. What will that do to morale? Which, may I remind you, is already at rock bottom. And we can't afford any more deserters. I didn't say we'd leave him alone completely, Masuda said. We definitely need to get our hands on his technology. We'll need it to both increase our own power and increase our funding after Detnarat fell. Speaking of which, do any of you have any plans on how to help with that massive hole in our budget? I'm way ahead of you. My people in the red light district have increased their efforts tenfold. Rayon said, before laughing. Ugh. Many members of the council shook their heads. Well, I doubt any of us can truly replace Destro's financial contributions, so we'll have to decrease our spending for the time being, Hibi said. I agree, we should focus our efforts on pilfering Midoriya's technology. With that, we can rebuild ourselves stronger. So Midoriya made us weaker, and now he'll make us stronger. Sen chuckled. How poetic. Speaking of poetic, I recently got some interesting notes from Dr. Garaki. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. A young blonde-haired girl, named Niku Shinda, walked up to the door of her house and opened it. Only to have her eyes widen in horror at what she saw. On the ground were her parents. Dead. Their bodies being eaten by a young, blonde-haired girl in a purple dress. That being her younger sister, Karara. While she was frozen in shock and fear, her sister seemed to have heard her. She stood up and turned around, revealing the 7-star dragon ball lodged in her forehead. Karara smiled with her blood-covered lips. Big sis, welcome home. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX walked up to a massive old-fashioned Japanese sliding door. "Are you done yet?" A few moments later, the door slid open, revealing another ninja. The man donned metal armor, with blades all over it. Namely its legs, wrist, and shoulders. He also wore a black cape, and a metal helmet with 3 spikes arranged in a trident-like fashion on top. "It is rude to interrupt a man in mourning." Scorpion. "Our men are wondering what you're planning to do now that your daughter has been killed," Scorpion said. If you do not make your stance clear, the more foolish among them may begin to think you're frightened by Midoriya. So be it. The man said as he and Scorpion started walking away from the room. I will let them know the Shredder will not take this lying down. Midoriya will feel the full wrath of the foot. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX collapsed in an alleyway, with a bottle in his hand. How dare they fire me? I'll kill them. I'll kill them all. Oh, said a deep voice. Ha! The man looked up and saw Sin Shinran standing over him. Ha! What do you want? That's what I wanted to ask you, Sin said with a smirk. Do you hate this world? Do you want to hurt it? Make it bleed? If so, then I may have an offer for you. He. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Cooler, as the latter worked on a large pod. The emerald is powerful, but so long as we don't use it to blow up a city, they won't be able to track its use, Cooler answered. So even our experimental use of the emerald won't allow them to track it from all the way back in Japan. Now quit bothering me, and go do your job. Oh, I have. I've already recruited various new promising members to our organization. But they will need a bit of convincing in order to properly cow them in. Frost said. Cooler sighed. Fine, show them the new models. That should keep them complacent. Hopefully. If not, I'll deal with them. Frost shrugged as he started walking out. Just make sure to keep your guard up, cousin. Even with that emerald, All for One still lost. I am aware, and I have no intention of repeating his mistakes, Cooler said. Once this new creation is finished, my new reign will begin. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX staring at a vial of remnant they kept in a special room. Astounding. The door opened, and in stepped another man, with golden blonde hair and bare ears. I knew I'd find you here, Murasaki. Isn't it amazing, Kin? Murasaki said, turning around to face his companion, and holding up the vial. This right here is a liquidized consciousness. A soul made tangible. We've proved that the soul exists. Think about what we could do with this. Kin shook his head. Murasaki, you know we're not supposed to mess with that stuff. We don't have clearance. You lucky there's so lax here, otherwise you'd be fired just for touching it. Come now, Kin, don't you want to explore more of this? We could control life itself. Murasaki said. Always so ambitious. Kin sighed as he turned around to leave. Just put it back. Lest your grand ambitions leave you fired. As Kin left, Murasaki looked down at the vial. One day I will master this. One day. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX blue-haired young man to a black-haired one. The two of them were both wandering the ruins of the city where the fight against One for All had taken place. "Come on, man, this place is prime for looting. And I intend to get the best of the goods before anyone else does," the black-haired man said to his partner. And then they stumbled across it. The absolutely massive crater. Whoa! It's hard to believe that people really made this, the black-haired man said. "Something's off about this place," the blue-haired man said as he stared into the crater. "It gives me the creeps." "Ah, come on, it's just whole dude," the black-haired man said. And then the earth started to shake. "Ha!" The black-haired man fell on his ass as the ground trembled. Suddenly, a black orb formed in the center of the crater, and dark energy rippled out of it. Then the black orb started to shift and change until it took a new form. The form of the corrupted All for One. "All villains must die," All for One said, his voice not sounding like this voice. Instead, it sounded like the voice of countless people, all absolutely enraged. All for one. Must pay. Then, all for one turned and immediately spotted the two men. Villains. The seemingly resurrected villain raised his arm at the two of them, and both wind and lightning started swirling around his arm. Ah! Aha! Both men got up and ran in the opposite direction. But it was pointless. They were both already dead. Krakum. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. What? Garaki's dead. Izuku shouted out in shock. Giza was giving Izuku a report, and nothing he had to say was good news. It appears that he killed himself in captivity. I think he knew we were going to force information out of him one way or another. Damn it! Izuku said, slamming his fist onto his desk. Even after he's defeated, that man is determined to drive me insane. Growling. Fine. We'll just have to focus on his notes. Also, there seems to have been a disturbance in the ruins, Giza said. There was a massive explosion of an unknown cause. Just send someone to investigate it. Hopefully it's nothing big. Izuku sighed. Chapter 233, Back. 2 weeks later, things with Keba had progressed somewhat smoothly, if slower than they would like. And finally, after countless hours poring over notes, making new machines and devices, and seemingly endless surgery, Keba was now in a state where she could stay conscious and receive visitors. How are you feeling? Izuku asked his daughter as he sat by her bedside. I'm okay, Daddy, Keba said. In truth, her body felt super hard to move with, and she still got headaches from time to time, but compared to before she was amazing right now, and she didn't want to worry Izuku. Hug? Izuku smiled. Of course. He immediately leaned in and embraced his daughter. And Keba leaned into his embrace. Unfortunately, she couldn't hug him back, because even in this severely weakened state, she could still easily hurt Izuku. I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. I can't believe how negligent I was. Izuku apologized. I honestly don't deserve you. Don't say that, Daddy. Keba said with a pout. She honestly didn't even remember how she got taken, or even what led up to it, but she was sure it wasn't his fault. I'm the one who doesn't deserve you. Oh, Keba, Izuku said as he hugged her tighter. Once you get better, let's go out. Just you and me. We can go anywhere you want. Can we take the others? Keba asked. Izuku smiled. Of course, we can. I'm sure they'd be delighted. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX her tightly. I was so scared. There, Fuku, Keba assured her, with a sad smile on her face. Let it all out. Promise me you'll never get captured again. Fuku yelled through her tears. Promise me. I mean, it's not like I wanted to get captured. Keba chuckled, but once she saw Fuku's teary-eyed pout, she caved. Alright, I promise. But first, you have to give yourself a head pat since I can't right now. Ha! Why you can't be serious? Fuku pouted. I'm super serious, Keba said with as much of a serious look as she could muster. Which wasn't very effective considering that she didn't have full control over her facial muscles, so it was half-baked at most. But Fuku fell all the same. Fine. Fuku sighed, before bringing her hand to her head, and awkwardly patting it. There, are you happy? Of course. Keba giggled. Thank you. My dearest little sister. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Hey, Keba, Liz said as he walked into Keba's room for his visit. Good to see that you're getting better. Oh, hey, you. Keba said awkwardly in response, trying to remember who this was. Lee's eyes widened. Wait a minute. Do you not remember me? Sorry, a lot of my memories are missing. Keba apologized, blushing with embarrassment. I don't seem to have any memory of you. Lo looked a little offended for a second, before just sighing. Well, it's not like we knew each other very long. Just have to make sure you remember this time around. Name's Leiden. But call me Lu. We fought together on Monstra, which is why I need to apologize for letting you get kidnapped. I doubt you, let me get kidnapped, Keba told him. But if you really want to make it up to me, could you tell me what happened before I got kidnapped? I guess, Lu said, not looking all too eager. Some big-shot villains attacked us, and we had to fight a really strong guy. Like, super strong. Our attacks were doing almost nothing to him. But you were pretty much the only person who could hold him back. Thanks to you we managed to hold him off long enough for AKA to take control of another villain, distract him, and let me teleport them a couple 100 feet into the air. So yeah, we kicked ass. But then another villain came in, sucker beamed you when we're weakened, and started kicking our ass. And in the struggle, another villain snuck in and took you. I see. Keba took a second to take all that in. A shame that I let my guard down, but at the very least I fought valiantly until the end. And no one else got hurt. You seem to be taking this all pretty well, Lu noted, a bit weirded out by how not upset she seemed by this all. Well, I can't remember most of the terrible things that I'm told happened to me. Keba pointed out, cringing a bit. Although I still remember some horrible, horrible pain. But most of it's just a blank for me. I'm just glad no one else got hurt. And now that you tell me that I actually helped out a whole lot, I'm feeling even better. Lu just looked at her, with a bewildered expression, taking a few minutes to try and process what Keba said before shaking his head clear and shrugging it off. Well, as long you're happy. When you get better, let's have another fight. I've been practicing, and I heard you have new powers. So let's see who's improved the most. As Lu left, Keba thought about that offer and looked down at her hands. I'm not sure that's a good idea. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Keba's head. It's not working. Keba frowned. I thought so. I've never seen anything like this before, Kyoku explained. It's like trying to put together a broken pot. But some pieces are so broken you can't touch them without breaking them more, and some pieces are just missing altogether. Understandable as that was, I'd appreciate it if you didn't compare my mind to a broken pot, Keba asked her. But thank you for trying. And don't look so upset. It ruins your cute little face. Poof. Kyoku pouted. I'm not cute. Keba giggled. Now, no lying to the queen. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX reaction. So my quirk really doesn't work on you anymore. It's rather ironic how I called myself a vampire queen, and now I really am undead. Keba chuckled. That sick doctor had an interesting sense of humor at least. Another evil doctor, Eri said under her breath, shuddering a bit. They're always the worst. Agreed. Between him and that overhaul guy, I wonder who's worse. Keba wondered. I don't really want to think about it, Eri said. Right. Sorry, that was foolish of me. Keba said, before giving Eri a big smile. I should be thanking you first of all. Without you, I'd still be that monster. I didn't really do anything, Eri said. They're just using my power with those fractals, they're not even taking blood from me anymore. It's still pretty enviable. Not many people can bless the world just by existing. Keba half teased with a smile. You really are a gift from the heavens, my dear sister. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Sori said as she walked into the room. You were the cat girl that saved me, right? Keba asked as she looked at Sori with vague familiarity. And the same one that broke into our forest and caused all that panic. Ah man, is that the only memory you have of me? Sori said, slouching as she made a disheartened expression. That blows. Unfortunately, only my more important memories are able to be recovered. So if we didn't have a very intimate moment together, I'll remember you less. Keba explained. My apologies. Nah, that's my fault. Guess that means I just have to make some better memories with ya, Lady K. Sori said, getting back into her usual high spirits. How about we go hunting after this? Keba actually laughed. Well, you certainly seem like an amusing person, although I don't think I should go hunting. I'm not sure the forest could handle it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. There had been a bit of wait after Sori. But Keba knew she wasn't done with her visitors yet. Pretty much everyone in the Foundation had paid her a visit. All of them except for one, technically two people that she knew had to come. KRRRRRRRRRRR. The door opened up, and Fu came in. Hey. Don't hey me. Why are you so late? Keba asked, crossing her arms and pouting at her oldest companion. Sorry, I wanted to go last because I knew we'd be here for a while. Fu lied. I suppose that makes sense. Keba accepted. Now come here, I wish to embrace you. Seems like your vocab hasn't suffered, Fu noted, as he came over to Keba, crawling onto her bed, and hugging her. Then Keba hugged him back, breaking his ribs and spine, and causing Fu's blood and internal organs to come spilling out of his mouth. Welcome back, sis. Fu thought. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Hello, my loyal minions. Keba said to the camera, doing the best pose she could in her bed. Lady Keba. She's back. Oh my god, what happened? I'm sure you must have all missed me dearly. And I am proud of your patience and honored by your concern. Keba said dramatically. I unfortunately came down with an unknown illness that rendered me unable to make videos for quite some time. But now I've recovered enough to make this announcement. Unknown illness? Can't Midoriya Tech cure anything? Or use that one girl's quirk? Poor Lady Keba. You should have told us, Lady Keba, we'd have sent you get well gifts. Yeah, why didn't anyone know about this? Geez, some of you guys are so invasive. She and her family have the right to privacy, you know. Unfortunately, I'm not at 100% yet, Keba said with a sigh. So I won't be able to produce normal videos for a while longer. But I trust all of you to remain patient until I recover. I know it will be hard, but I assure you will be rewarded. And feel free to watch my siblings in the meantime. Like Knees. Hey. Knees timidly from behind the camera. With that said, I bid you all farewell for now. Chapter 234, A Wonderful Place. Wow. Himiko gasped as she looked down at her cup of blood. She was sitting in the cafeteria with everyone else, enjoying a wonderful stack of French toast and a cup of blood. We heard you like to drink blood, we included it with your meal, Shiroko said, as she ate her own meal. A brain. Well, start eating, otherwise your food will get cold. Can I really drink this? Himiko asked as she looked over the cup, her mouth watering as the metallic smell of the blood hit her nose. No one's gonna get mad at me, right? Not at all. Just look at what I'm eating. Shiroku said as she cut up the brain and used her fork to lift it into her mouth. Himiko still looked a little baffled, but she quickly got over it and started gulping down the blood. Ah! This is so good. This place has to be heaven. Once the cup was drained, Himiko moved on to her actual meal, and her eyes went wide with wonder. This confirms it. I'm in heaven. Heaven. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Amazing. Himiko gushed as she twirled around in front of a mirror in her brand new outfit. She had on a simple red and green outfit, with a skirt and frilly top, as well as red shoes. And her hair was tied up in a ponytail. I look so pretty. And that's just the start, Shiroku said, with a smug look on her face. This was just what we could do on short notice. Our fashion power goes far beyond this. Sheena added, looking just as smug, although she only helped with the hair. In other words, this was just the opening act. Now prepare for the main show. Shiroku shouted. It's been a while since we got a new family member, so I think a new round of dress-up is in order. Yeah. Himiko had never played dress-up before, but they seemed too excited about it, and she liked looking pretty, so why not go alone? Seemed like fun. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Himiko happily hummed as she walked over to her room, with boxes of clothes in her arms. Dress up had been fun, and the girl talk during it only enhanced the experience. She couldn't remember the last time she could really talk with others so freely, about things from fashion, to cute things, to bloody carnage. So far today had been the best day ever. And then she tripped. Whoa! Himiko fell forward, and the boxes started to spill out of her arms. But before she or any of her new clothes could hit the floor, they were all caught by black tendrils. Careful, Fu said, as he used Kyosei to get Himiko back on her feet while taking the boxes. Here, let me help. Where are you going? Thanks. Everyone here is so nice. Himiko noted. It's Susu much better than my old home. Yeah, that's kinda the point, Fu said. Dad works hard to make sure everyone here is as happy as can be. Even when it seems like everyone else tries to make that hard for him. Mr. Midoriya, he's super amazing, right? Himiko asked with stars in her eyes. He's in charge of this whole amazing place, and he's super nice. No one's denying that. Anyway, let's get this to your room. Fu said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX while she dashed through the forest at top speed. "There you are!" Sori shouted as she found a deer, before quickly cutting its head off with her claws. "Awesome!" Himiko cheered as they came to a halt. "Again! Again!" "Sorry kid, we gotta deal with this one first," Sori said as she lifted up the deer corpse. "Don't want all the blood getting on the ground and the meat going bad, do ya?" Himiko said, getting off Sori so they could deal with the deer. The young blonde watched with zeal as Sori drained its blood, before skinning it and cutting it up into smaller parts. "Cool." Himiko cooed. "You're so cool, Sori. How'd you learn to do all that?" "The same way most people do, manga," Sori said proudly. "If you can learn anything by watching YouTube and reading manga, it's a real life hack." Meanwhile, back in Izuku's office, Izuku suddenly got a headache, and he didn't know why. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. So one time, Ken was 4 arms, and he got stuck in a hole, and he couldn't turn back for 8 whole minutes, Kei said. "And so I found him and I said, need a hand? Baitum tish." Himiko applauded. She was currently acting as an audience for Kei's stand-up routine. Of course, she didn't find any of her jokes funny in the slightest. But she enjoyed the sheer passion and energy Kei brought. She was just filled with so much life. So she'd sit through some bad jokes if only to watch and encourage someone so adorably lively. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX she and Yaba used the karaoke machine in Himiko's room. Like a flood of pain. Yaba continued. Pouring down on me. And it will not let up until the end is here. And it will come. Thought the darkest day. In my final hour. And it will never rest until the clouds are clear. Until it finds my dreams and disappearances. Pairs, pairs. My dreams disappear. And with that, the song ended. That was amazing. I always wanted to do karaoke but didn't know it'd be this much fun. Himiko cheered. I know, right? And my sister said they didn't want to do it because we can't sing. You don't need to be good at singing to enjoy karaoke, Yaba stated confidently. Now let's do another one. The only thing I know for real this time. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Take this. Kota shouted as he shot out water blasts at Himiko. Himiko ran through the backyard as fast as she could, jumping and ducking and bobbing and weaving through water blasts, not letting a single one hit her, while she carried her own water gun. Shwoop! Lou teleported in front of her, with a cocky smirk on his face, and a water gun aimed right at her face. Eat this! Whoa! Himiko fell onto her back, letting the water shot fly over her, and blasting Lou in the face with her own water gun at the same time. Pa! Lou got a face full of water that sent him stumbling back and let Himiko get back up and run away. Ha! Nice triac! Himiko was suddenly blasted by water from above, as Ken flew in the air as Stinkfly, and shot down at everyone from above. Ahahaha! Good luck hitting me all the way up here, suckers! Ken taunted. Before he then got nailed by 3 water balloons, one of them hitting him right in the face. Gah! Don't get cocky fuckface! Yaba shouted as she and Inu threw water balloons up at Ken from the ground. Splash! Ah! The sisters cried out, as Otatko laid fire or rather water on them, with his super soaker minigun. Only to get interrupted, as Himiko and AKA shot water right at his face. Ha! Nice! AKA cheered. And then, everyone stopped, when a shadow appeared, and flew over everyone. They all looked up and saw Yami, flying on top of a griffin. And there were also 4 other griffins, holding up a giant cluster of water balloons, about the size of a house. No mercy, Yami said simply, as he commanded the Grim to release the balloons, letting them fall down like rain. Oh crap, everyone run! Ken shouted as he and everyone else tried to get away, but it was far too late, as the balloons fell on them like rain, exploding and flooding the entire area with water. Needless to say, Yami was considered the winner of this game. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX reporting to Izuku on Himiko's behavior and recent activities. She seems to have gotten over her parents abandoning her rather quickly, likely because she seems to have been expecting it, and as such has had no issue in dealing with her new environment. If anything, she's thriving. She gets along with many of the other children and is extremely lively and energetic. I don't think she's stopped smiling a single time today. It's almost hard to believe that she was once a villain. Izuku sighed. Almost. While for the most part, Himiko was a very lovely individual, her obsession with blood and gore could be very off-putting to most people. Especially because, unlike Keba or Shiroku, she didn't technically need to consume blood or body parts. The keyword being technically. Because the way her brain was wired gave her a kind of addiction to blood, and going without it for long periods of time could trigger a kind of withdrawal in her. Well, we shouldn't have to worry about her going down that path again now that she's here, Izuku said. I wish I could be this at ease about Tenko. Giza nodded. The boy has yet to leave his room. And all he does in there is eat, sleep, and watch hero fights on the news. The loss of his family seems to have sent the young boy down the path of heartache and confusion. Do you think he's ready for me to talk to him? Izuku asked. I'd say so, Giza confirmed. In fact, I would advise you to do that sooner than later, before you become too busy. Izuku! Himiko shouted as she slammed the door open and ran into Izuku's office, soaking wet. Izuku got up, knowing what was coming. Himiko tackled Izuku and wrapped her arms around him. I had so much fun. Izuku smiled. I'm glad you did. I'm sure everyone else had fun too. Now let's go get you changed before you catch a cold. We have to be quick because dinner could be done at any moment. Yet another good day at the Midoriya Foundation. The type of days that should be the norm. Chapter 235, Something Borrowed Something New. Yami. Amai immediately hugged Yami as soon as she arrived at the foundation. With All for One and Destro dead, Kurogiri in prison, and the foundation being mostly safe from portals and the like, Izuku relaxed the ban on traveling in and out of the foundation a bit. Amai could come in and out so long as the trip was supervised by one of his bodyguards. Yami hugged back, happy to see the girl in person again after so long. Amai. Thank you. I need your help. You needed my candies, right? Amai asked, opening up her bag to reveal a ton of candies, all of different colors. I got them right here. But what did you need all these for? Creating life, Yami answered. Ha? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. What is this? Amai asked. The two of them stood in the forest, at the edge of a small lake. Except this lake wasn't filled with water. It was filled with Yami's grim batter. Just a massive pit of dark bubbling ooze. Creation pit. Use it to make a more powerful grim. Yami explained as he started taking stuff out of his backpack. First, there was the chaos heart still in its container. Then another container, with a brain in it. After that were some vials of blood. And lastly were a bunch of fractals. I'm creating the most powerful grim. A living one. Yami explained as he threw all the fractals into the lake. You candies have emotions in them. Important for creating life. Oh. That makes sense. Amai said, looking down at her candies before looking at Yami. But why do you want to make life? Adds power, Yami explained as he uncorked the blood vials and dumped them into the lake. When people want to protect, they surpass limits. Become more powerful than they should. A soul is very, very powerful. I never thought about it like that, Amai said thoughtfully, before smiling and dumping the candies in the lake. Alright. Let's do this. Let's make the most powerful grim. Yami nodded and smiled a bit. Thank you. He then quickly dumped the brain into the lake, before moving on to the last item. The Chaos Heart. Yami opened its container and tossed it into the lake. A moment later, the process began. The lake began to move. The goo swirling around in a circular fashion. Slowly at first, but it was getting faster and faster until a whirlpool formed, focusing all the goo into the center of the lake. Quickly the lake started to drain, as everyone was focused into the center. About a minute later, the process was done. The lake had completely drained, leaving only a black egg, about the size of a child, in the center. Did it work? Amai asked. A griffin came in and grabbed the egg, bringing it to the two of them. Yami put his hand on the egg. She's forming. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX joy," Izuku said as he and Giza sat in his office. "I plan to start an information and subterfuge division, and I want you to be in charge of it." "That's quite a task," Giza said, taking the information calmly as he sipped his tea. "But if I'm in charge, then will I be able to use them for my own needs?" "I trust you enough, so yes," Izuku agreed. "And I have a feeling our interests align enough that anything you want to do for yourself will also benefit me." "Most likely," Giza confirmed. "However, I would like to know how you plan on filling the ranks of this division?" "For such a division to work, we must be very careful with the selection and training of its members. Of course, I will do all I can, but even I can only do so much. Not to mention none of them should be well known to any degree." "I have that covered," Izuku said, pulling out a bunch of files and laying them on the table. "On top of some androids to help fill out the rankings, I've also initiated Project Rebirth." "Project Rebirth?" Giza asked. "Some time ago, my scientist created a very interesting fractal," Izuku explained. "Its quirk was dubbed Reshuffle. It's basically a respin button on the wheel of life. When activated, it will alter the user's looks, quirks, gender, and even personality, to something completely random. The limit being it must be something that person's parents could have produced. It'd be like turning into the brother or sister you never had. And although it can be used to change a person's quirk or give a quirk to the quirkless, unfortunately, it just changes too much about a person. With personality and behavior changes, it could turn you into an almost completely different person, with the only connection to your old self being your memories and age. Which is why I've restricted its use to certain chosen individuals. People who've had it so bad, they desire death. Or in this case, a restart. These individuals are thankful and loyal to me. And thanks to that fractal, we've altered their bodies and minds to suit our needs perfectly. I see. Not to mention that since they're practically new people, they won't have any history that can be looked into. Giza pointed out. At least none that isn't fabricated by us. That's right. They're almost perfect. All they need is training. Izuku said. And thankfully, not only are their quirks perfectly suited for their jobs, but we've also altered their very natures to be more hardworking and dedicated, so I assure you training them won't be too hard. Well, you've certainly thought this thought. Giza smiled, liking this idea more and more. But what do you plan on naming this new division? I leave that to you, Izuku said. Very well. How about the hand? Giza chuckled. Oh yes. The hand will work quite well. How long do you think it'll take to get them into shape? Izuku asked. If they're as easy to train as you imply, then perhaps half a year would be the best I could offer. Giza estimated. That's quite a while. Do you think any of our technology could expedite the process? Izuku asked. I already took that into account. Half a year is my best estimate. Giza said. I apologize, but I can't compromise on this. I would rather do everything myself than trust in half-trained and inadequate subordinates. I understand. In that case, take all the time you need. Izuku said. I still need you for other things, so I'll just have to be patient. Although the androids you shouldn't have to train, so we can at least use them. I'll judge that for myself, Giza said. Knock. Mr. Midoriya, I have the papers for the new kids we'll be receiving, Chol said from the other side of the door. All right. Giza, you're dismissed. Izuku said. Chol, come in. Giza exited the room as Chol entered, carrying some files in her arms. Here you are, sir, Chol said, giving Izuku files for 5 new children. Izuku looked over the files. It's been a while. The first kid was a 9-year-old boy named Oki. He had black skin and red and teal eyes, along with light green hair. But none of that was the bizarre part of him. That would be the fact that his body was covered in mouths. Along with the one on his face, he had mouths on his hands, elbows, shoulders, the back of his neck, the center of his back, one on his stomach, 2 on his knees, and 1 on each foot. This naturally had to do with his quirk. Glutton. Each mouth can eat pretty much anything, and store it inside of Oki, in some kind of pocket dimension. Oki can also blast them out of these mouths, acting pretty much like feedback. However, unlike feedback, Oki's mouths can consume more than energy. Solids, liquids, and gases could also be eaten and spat out. To top all this off, the mouths had incredible sucking and blowing power, being able to spit out seeds at speeds that made them act like bullets. Lastly, every mouth could also stretch and grow to a limited extent. As for what is dangerous, that was simple. It was sentient. Glutton had a mind of its own, and it could be seen as an eyeball that could move from mouth to mouth on Oki's body. Naturally, being a sentient quirk that revolves around eating, Glutton desired to eat everything. People included. Fortunately, Oki was very much against that idea, but his control over his own body seemed to slip whenever he got hungry, causing Glutton to puppet him around and go on an eating spree. And considering that Oki could eat more than food before being satisfied, it was clear that Oki should be classified as an OPC. It appears that even when not hungry, Glutton would attempt to eat everything it could get its mouths on, meaning those would need to be covered. He'd also try to convince Oki to eat everything, meaning those coverings would need to be soundproof. Next up was a young girl with pure white hair, pale skin, and bug wings on her back. It looked like she had on some kind of mosquito head hat, but that was actually part of her head. Her nails were also black, and sharp as a blade. This girl was Kanobaga. 7 years old. As one could guess, her quirk was called Mosquito Queen. It's basically the same thing as Shiroku's quirk but with mosquitoes instead of spiders. She could even control mosquitoes like Shiroku could with spiders. And much like Shiroku, her food requirements are where the issues lay. She needed to drink blood. Which was pretty par for the course for a mosquito, unfortunately, given her size, she needed to drink almost an entire person a day. With this kind of feeding requirement, her being labeled as an OPC was a given. After her was a trio of siblings that had been rescued from quirk breeders. First was the oldest. Oto. A 9-year-old boy with short black hair. His quirk was called Sonic Scream. It was similar to Present Mix's quirk as it allowed him to unleash a powerful and destructive blast of sound from his mouth. However, his quirk had two major differences. Oto's quirk was way stronger, and it couldn't be turned off. Every time Oto made the slightest noise from his mouth, his quirk would activate, turning even a whisper into a building-busting blast. This unfortunately meant the boy had to wear a muzzle, as the risk of him accidentally making a noise and blowing up everything around him was too great. After him was his younger sister, an 8-year-old girl, Ko. She had straight black hair that went down to her shoulders and was rather small for her age. Her quirk was called Ear Bleed. Anytime she spoke, anyone who could hear her voice would be in immense pain. The louder her voice, the more intense the pain. Lastly, there was the youngest member. Kuki. He looked like his brother, but with slightly longer hair and a far smaller body. He was also in a wheelchair. This was because of his quirk, Amp. Any noise that came from his body would be considerably amplified into a blast of sound. Even just the sound of him walking could destroy everything around him. Although for whatever reason, this didn't include sounds made from his mouth, opposite to his brother. Well, hopefully, none of them cause any trouble, Izuku said as he finished reading over the files. Chol, are their rooms ready? Of course, sir. All 6 rooms are ready. Chol answered. 6? Izuku questioned. Ah yes, thanks to Yami, we'll have another child added to the roster shortly, Chol revealed. One that's bound to be very, very interesting. Chapter 236, New Arrivals. Well, this is unusual, Fu said to himself. The undead child was carrying a creature of raw meat, and as he was looking for a table to sit down and eat it when he spotted something strange. A mountain of food, even larger than his, was splayed out on a table, and a child he didn't recognize was eating away at it like his life depended on it. Must be one of the new kids that came in yesterday. Fu thought. He took a closer look at the kid's face, and he looked troubled. I should talk to him. Fu thought. And so he used Kyosei to make tendrils come out of his mouth, and then dumped the whole crate of meat into his mouth, using Kyosei to contort and stretch his body, to allow the meat to travel into his stomach all at once. Alright, time to. How the hell did you do that? Oki asked. His sped-up eating had caught his attention. Quirks, Fu said simply. Crazy, huh? Yeah, Oki said, looking down at the clamps covering the mouths on his body. Crazy. Anyway, I have to get back to eating. Fu looked at the pile of food and found that it was very roughly cooked. Some of them were even burnt, and none of them looked like they were cooked with any amount of care. It seems that he has to eat his food cooked unlike me. So he had to cook all that before he could eat. Sounds like a pain. I should probably help the poor kid. Somehow. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Kay was having another good day. After having some lunch, she skipped back to her room to watch some TV. She opened the door and... Splash! The moment she opened the door, an unforeseen bucket of water spilled onto her head, dousing her. Ha! Kay looked down at her now soaking wet body in confusion. Ah ha 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 ha! Sounded a laugh track from behind her. Kay turned around and saw one of the new arrivals, Ko, standing behind her with her phone in her hand and a smug look on her face. You're that new girl, Ko, right? Kay asked, not sounding all too upset. Ko nodded, looking a little surprised at how not upset she was. And you must have been the one who did this. Kay laughed. Nice one. I didn't expect that at all. Ko looked even more confused, but quickly got over it and just smiled, before quickly typing something into her phone, which then spoke using text-to-speech. Thanks. You're welcome, Kay said. Now could you help me dry off? I don't want to miss my show. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Alright, time to get to work, Izuku said as he got to his desk. He sat down on his chair. And it immediately falls apart, causing him to land but first on the floor. Ah ha 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 ha. Played the laugh track, as Izuku spotted Ko under his desk, looking all too proud of herself. Izuku just smiled and shook his head. Can I please have the screws back, please? Ko comes out from under the desk and hands him the screws, before running off, to cause more mischief. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. You know, if you just didn't poop, you'd be perfect, Yonda said to Esper, as she finished cleaning her litter box. Alright, now with that done, time to take a shower. After getting undressed and grabbing her towel, Yonda entered her bathroom, and quickly got into the bathtub, before turning on the water. And then she was immediately hit by cold water splashing onto her. Just how she wanted it. Aha! Nothing like a good shower to wipe away the filth. Yonda smirked. And fortunately, I enjoy my cold showers. Ko! Damn it, she found me! Ko thought from her hiding space in the bathroom closet. The girl had been hiding out there, after messing with Yonda's shower by turning off the hot water. She tried to just not think in order to hide from Yonda and not give herself away, but in hindsight, that was a really dumb idea. If you wanted to get my attention so badly, then you could have just asked, Yonda said. I'd love to have a chat with you, and I'm sure you are dying to speak to someone directly. Well, you're not wrong, Ko thought. Good. Now just wait a couple of minutes for me to finish my shower, Yonda said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Today had left a rather good first impression on Ko. Sure, her pranks haven't gotten the expected reaction, but it's not like the reactions she did get were bad by any means. Plus Yonda did give her some tips on who to prank and how, so she knew what she had to do now. Speaking of Yonda, that was a treat. Being able to talk to someone without attempting sign language, or using text-to-speech on her phone. And Yonda herself was a delight, even if she was very smug. She'd find a way to prank her someday. Overall, a pretty great day. As Ko was ruminating on her day with a smile on her face, she walked past the training room and spotted her older brother, practicing hand-to-hand combat on a training dummy. Ko scowled. Her day just got a little bit worse. She quickly marched away and didn't look back. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. So I was thinking that a black and white suit would look good on Oto, Kano suggested, as she drew a design. She and Shiruku were currently working on designs for hero costumes for everyone in the house. Everyone that wanted to be a hero, that is. Quickly after meeting, Kano and Shiruku hit it off. Which surprised Kano, considering she was horribly afraid of spiders. But Shiruku's sense of fashion overshadowed her spideriness, even if Kano still found herself flinching every time she got too close. I like that idea. I'm thinking of a rather bold white along his costume. Big lines and jagged bolts, Shiruku suggested. And maybe a head ornament to make the top look less plain. Nothing too garish, just something to break up the black. Speaking of looking less plain, we need something to add to the silhouette, right now it's too basic. Kano mused. I'm thinking of those kinds of underarm gliders. They don't have to actually do anything, but I'd add to the aesthetic. They'd also look good while he uses his quirk. Oh. I like that very much. Shiruko grinned from ear to ear. I have a feeling you and I will work together for a long, long time. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX permission to sleep over. The reason was obvious. They were waiting for the egg to hatch. It's not like they'd just been looking at the egg all day. The two of them watched TV, played video games, ate snacks, played videos, and played cards, before going back to play more video games. Right now the two of them were playing the latest Call of Duty, Zombies mode. "I'm out of ammo," Yami said. "I got ya." Amai quickly threw some ammo to Yami. "Always go for the head. Conserves ammo." "Easy to say," Yami said as he continued playing. Crack, crack. Both of them froze, as they heard a cracking sound coming from the egg, which was leaning up against the wall. The two of them immediately looked over to the egg and saw that there was indeed a crack, from which black liquid, similar to grim goop but more watery, leaked out. Crack! Crack, crack! More and more cracks appeared in the egg until a whole hand popped out of the egg. Yami quickly got up and tore the egg open, flooding the area around it with black liquid, and allowing a girl to drop out onto the floor. The girl looked exactly like Yami, or rather a female version of him, with hair going down to her back. Ha! The girl quickly sprung to her feet in a panic, only to fall back onto her butt. "Calm," Yami ordered, and immediately, the girl's movements became less panicked and more confused. She looked up at her creator, her eyes brimming with curiosity. "Creator?" Yami nodded. "You understand? Information going into your brain?" The creation took a second to process all the information that was already in her brain. She was created by Yami to help fight against evil. She knows Japanese and can read and write. "Welcome to the world," Yami said, as Amai handed him a blanket, which he wrapped his new creation in. "Your name is Seio. You are my greatest creation." "Greatest creation," Seio repeated, as she looked down at herself. And the first thing she ever felt, past the initial confusion of her birth, was a great sense of responsibility. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. "Alright, let's get this started," Futaba said as she looked at a computer. The first place Yami had taken his new creation was to Izuku, who then took her to the lab. Izuku, Yami, Futaba, and Amai were all looking down at Seio in her test chamber, from an upper observation chamber. "Seio, please feel free to use your power in whatever way you can," Futaba said. Seio, now in a basic white dress, looked down at her hands. Powers. She didn't know exactly what her so-called powers were, but she had a feeling it was connected to this weird energy she felt around her. Following her instincts, she tensed her hands, and that energy started gathering in her hands, becoming visible and turning into black orbs of energy. She then aimed her palms at the wall and pushed it forward. PEWM. Black lasers blasted the wall, although they didn't do any damage. "Interesting," Futaba said as she looked at the readings on her computer. "She's gathering the same negative energy that Yami uses, and forming it into an energy blast. I wonder. Hey Seio, try creating a grim like Yami does. Just a small one-line mini Deathstalker." Seio nodded and looked back down at her hands. Once again she centered all of the energy she could into one of her hands, but this time instead of an energy orb, it turned into a Deathstalker. Curious, she set the thing on the ground and made it move around, going in a circle. Then after that, she focused some more energy on it, causing it to grow to the size of a small dog. Interesting. So this is my power, Seio thought. I wonder what else I can make. In her hands, she gathered more energy and made a black gemstone. Then she made a black fist. Then she made a sword. Fascinating, it appears she can take the negative emotions in the area, and not just convert them into power, but form them as well, Futaba said. Although it appears her constructs require constant focus to keep their form, unlike Yami's, she can't absorb negative energy, so her power is limited by how much negative energy is around her. So she'd be a lot stronger in a more populated area. Away from Yami, who's also absorbing negative energy. Izuku was brought up. Yeah, ironically, Yami's greatest creation is nerfed by being around him, Futaba said. Is she strong? Yami asked. Oh yeah, plenty strong, Futaba confirmed. At max power, that is. Speaking of which, there is something I wanted to test. Her body structure seems similar to the Hound, but without the brain weakness. I want to test her regeneration. Just tell me what happens when she gets injured and I'll dash. Slice. Everyone stopped as they heard a slicing sound from the chamber, and looked down to see that Seio had cut off her hand with a construct sword. Immediately, dark energy began to pool into the wound, and her flash rapidly regrew, until half a minute later the hand was regrown. Or she could do that, Futaba said, slightly surprised by the girl's eagerness to dismember herself. Hey Yami, can she feel pain? Yami nodded. Well, that's concerning. Looks like you've got another doozy to take care of, huh boss? Futaba said. Izuku sighed. I expected as much. And speaking of doozies. Is she Yami's kid? His sister? What's going on here? Futaba asked. Wait, if she's Yami's kid, and she was made with my candies, am I a mom? I gasped, as a look of pure shock took over her face. Ha! Yami hadn't really thought about it, but despite that making sense, it also felt really, really weird. Sister. She's a sister. Then so it shall be. And no more thought shall be given to this. Izuku said decisively. Last thing he needed was to be a grandfather at his age. The media would kill him. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 44. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.